Hey mama, have you ever felt like an imposter? Like you don't belong? Like you get into a room, you sit down at a table, you look around and go, ooh, am I supposed to be here? I have had that feeling myself. And sometimes it's been imposter syndrome, but other times it hasn't. Other times it's been something else. And that's what I want to talk to you about, when it's that something else and what that looks like. Listen, I got a story to tell you. And then after, I'm going to share with you something that will hopefully help you to get your space at the table, own your space at the table, and show up as your best self. Because that's the thing, when you have any self-doubt, wherever it's coming from, if it's imposter syndrome or something else, it stops you from being your best self. And I want you to be your best self, because when you shine, everything gets better. The world gets better when you are at your best. So listen, let me tell you my story. I used to do consulting on Wall Street. Go figure, me, this little black girl, doing consulting on Wall Street. And once I had a client, right? I was at a firm and I had a client and my team went to go deliver the work that we had been doing. Now, I was a specialist in my area. Let's just call it selling oranges, but actually it was looking at low income debt and how you finance low income debt, the risks around that. A little bit more, I guess, boring to listen to than selling oranges. So let's just say I was selling oranges. But I show up to the client with my team. There's 4 or 5 of us. There are 5 of us, I think. We get to the client's office, big Wall Street office in a traditional room like you think about in the movies, with a big long table, and we're all on one side, and then our client files in, and there's several of them. The oldest, most senior person was not just the oldest, the most senior person was also the oldest, and he was a white guy. He was an old white guy, and he sat down in the middle, and everybody kind of filed in around him, and he puts his elbows on the table, and he looks at me and goes, "Pass me the water." And I wasn't too far from the water. I wasn't the closest to the water, but I wasn't too far, but I reached out and I gave it to him, and I was like, "You're welcome." And then he looks at me and goes, "No, everybody needs water." And I was like, wait, what's happening? But, I'm also just in my nature wanting to give and serve, and it's just kind of a part of who I am. So I got to reach for the water, but my colleague who was closer goes, "I got it." And he reaches out and then he gives the water to everybody. So we go into our pitch. Well, it isn't a pitch. We go into our readout, right? Because we had already scored the client. It was really more about delivering the information. So I'm sharing with him everything that I know about oranges, low-income financing of credit card debt. I'm sharing it with him and I'm going through, and he has a question, and he looks at the guy next to me and asks the guy, whose name happened to be John, "John, what do you think about X, Y, and Z?" John goes, "Well, let's ask Whitney. She's the expert." So I give the answer. I keep going through everything else. He asks another question. "John, tell me about blah, blah, blah." He looks at Whitney and goes, "Let's ask Whitney. She's the expert." This went on. It happened like 3 or 4 times. We got to the end of the presentation. Everyone had shared everything. He had more questions about oranges and was like, "No, but tell me, how do you measure the juice of an orange, John?" And John was like, "Let's ask Whitney." Now, John, who was sitting to my left, happened to also be an older white guy. And I sat there not being acknowledged and feeling like, what is going on here? I mean, definitely I was the only person who looked like me at that table. And the consulting world was also new for me at the time. And I sat there thinking, wow, I came in here so prepared, really ready to talk about everything, but maybe I'm messing it up. Maybe I'm not really delivering the information in a way that is effective or impactful, or maybe I don't know as much as I thought that I did. And afterwards, I said to John, I was like, "John, geez, I thought I really had prepared for this, but it feels like, the client didn't receive the information. What could I do better? What could I do next time?" And John looks at me and he goes, "No, you did prepare. You were fine. That was good. You gave all the information. In fact, that was a great job." He's like, "I was actually surprised that your answer for X, Y, and Z was so thorough. I was surprised how you said, how you can actually measure the juice of an orange." And so then I thought, what just happened here? Am I an imposter? Are these feelings of self-doubt imposter syndrome? Because I walked in feeling really good about the information that I had to share and my ability to share it, my ability to communicate and to connect. And then I realized, you know what? It's not imposter syndrome. That is not what was going on. What was going on was that room with the big long table and the big Wall Street office wasn't made for me. And that client across the table was setting it up. So I understood that that room was not made for me. And that by him asking me to pass the water and serve everyone water, he was trying to keep me out of the room. That's what was really happening. It wasn't imposter syndrome, the self-doubt, because imposter syndrome is like manufactured in your head. It's the stories that you tell yourself. It's the questions you ask yourself. It's a self-doubt that you're creating for yourself. No, he was trying to manufacture doubt in me about whether or not I belonged in this room. It's not the same thing. But it is real that there are rooms that weren't made for us. Whether it's because you're a woman, a mother, a person of color, there are rooms that were not made for us. But it doesn't mean that we don't belong. And it doesn't mean that we don't deserve a seat. And so I want to share this with you because while imposter syndrome is real and something that you can work through, and I work through, and we all, most women anyway, need to work through, especially high achieving women, it's also very real that some people are trying to create self-doubt. And I want you to know that if you are the only person in a room who looks like you, and you start to feel doubt, even though you walked in that room super confident about what you had to deliver, it might be that that room just wasn't made for you. But you know what? Go ahead and pull up a chair anyway, because it doesn't make you an imposter. It makes you a trailblazer. It makes you the first who will pave a way for others to come behind you doing just what you're doing, which is being your best and delivering value to the world.